Hi, good evening, Carol. I was just gonna do a quick little sound check before we got close to 5:30.
Okay, here we go. I'm inside. I'm going to try to go outside at some point. But the neighborhood kid was bouncing the basketball, so I'm going to wait for that. That would be easier for my husband if I did that. So at some point, I'll turn off my video and then I'll just pop outside. So
Yeah, that's fine. You'll just have to be quick with the muting and unmuting to keep between the
absolutely.
basketball bounces or something.
I won't go out there
Okay,
if
we're
he's
still
still bouncing the basketball. And most of the time I'll
okay.
keep mine muted, unless I plan, unless I have something to say.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah. Good to be here.
Like we're live, good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Our first order of business tonight is a public hearing in regards to our school calendar. So I'll go ahead and call the public hearing to order. Are there any comments, oral or written, concerning the 2026-27 academic school calendar? Is there anyone in person that wants to make a comment about the calendar? Okay, hearing none. The board has received written comments from the public, which was, a lot of varying topics. We're not going to read those aloud tonight, but we are going to link those to the notes. So hearing no in-person comments, I'll go ahead and call the public hearing adjourned. Moving on, I'll call to order the regular school board meeting agenda. Taking roll call, please note that Director Sand is joining virtually. Thanks for being here, Carol.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. And all other directors are here in person. Do I have a volunteer to read the mission and vision statement?
Kim.
Okay, thanks.
At Decorah Community School District, we embrace student learning and well-being as our fundamental purpose. We will, in partnership with our students, families, and community, make the world a better place. The mission of the Decorah Community School District is learning, thriving, creating our legacy. The vision of the Decorah Community School District is Decorah Community School District will be collaborative, innovative, learning-centered organization, empowering students to embrace their personal strengths and create their future.
Thank you. And speaking of students empowering their personal strengths, I just want to acknowledge that it's Music in Our Schools Month. I've seen an incredible, so many music concerts in the last 2 weeks that got standing ovations. But beyond music and fine arts, we've also had fire truck parades welcoming kids back to town. So we just have and strong data in our other grades. We just have so many good things going on in our school district. So as we continue with our meeting tonight, we'll stay centered around all the good things that are happening in our district. First on the agenda is old business, and there is none.
There's none.
So we're gonna move on because we went deep into the alphabet today.
Yes.
Next is approval of tonight's agenda.
And I would just say, item C, the MOU with the city is still being discussed. We've got a meeting set up for Thursday. So I'm gonna suggest that we approve agenda without item C. And then if we can we could tentatively put down like maybe noon on Friday as a special board meeting to approve that. We want to get it approved so the city can approve it on Monday night so that construction can start without any restrictions on Tuesday.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with removing item C from our agenda.
Hearing a motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll dig into new business. First is approval of the 2026 and 27 academic.
We're gonna do consent items.
Oh, excuse me. We have
Oh, just get excited.
So much of the agenda. Okay, so now we're on. Yeah, stick with me. Well, first, we'll move on to approval of consent items, which includes minutes from our last regular meeting, bills, and personnel listings. So take a look at that. Thank you all for keeping me on track.
I'll move to approve the consent items.
I'm hearing a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Is there any further discussion?
No discussion, just a question. The hire for the science teacher, is that for the full-time or the 1 year position?
That's what full-time. We had 2 resignations, so now we just have the 1 year position left.
have a question on the general fund bills. I'm making assumptions based on knowing people's names that a few of the general fund bills are reimbursements for fuel, but they're activities related. So will those eventually flow into activities or?
Yeah,
But
they know, I mean, no, they won't. Fuel would come out of the, okay, you would come out of the fuel or the gas, the general fund for gas.
So if 7 coaches are on a team and 1 rides the bus and 6 drive separately, why are we paying for coaches to drive separately?
It's not separate, it's reimbursed. By the time you go to trip back and forth of the morning, they have to,
Right?
so
Why is it coming out of general fund and not activities?
it's all activities, the work activities.
And they're driving vans, right? They're fueling up our vans because they don't have a credit card with them to fill it up, so they're using their own and then we're reimbursing them.
Yeah.
If that helps there.
No, I mean, the question wasn't about the reimbursement, just about where it was pulling back from, so.
Question. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I,
Opposed, same sign.
I'm having a little
We got
bit
you,
of
Carol.
a time hearing. Is there any way that Sean can adjust the volume of the speaker that is in the middle of the table, or is it up as high as it goes?
He's
I have my
working on
computer
that.
volume up as high as it goes. I can hear Aaron fine, and I can't hear Lily very well. Maybe Lily could scoot over one seat.
Great,
And she's, yeah.
thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking for what you need. Okay, next we're moving on to open forum communication from the public. Any comments today? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our presentation. And we have Shannon Horton with us tonight. He's our librarian and media specialist at the high school for a presentation. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michaela is sick. She made it through the day working and then had to head home. So I'm representing both of us. I'll do the best I can. Mickey Seaman works with grades TK through 4. She's been at Decorah for 14 years. She has a teaching license, of course, and she also has a master's in library studies from UNI. I've been here for 16 years and I work with the middle school and the high school. And I have, of course, a teaching license, and then I also have a master's degree in library studies from UW-Madison. Can you click on that link that I have here? So this is summarizing some research that's been done in the last decade on school libraries and the association between having a school library and improved reading scores. This is summarizing multiple studies, and what it shows over and over is that it does increase, having a librarian does increase reading scores, and they've controlled for poverty, also with staffing losses in terms of like other teachers, losing those teachers, but still having a librarian is still associated with higher reading scores. But it's not just a librarian in a library, right? It's a librarian that is doing good work, and that's what the bottom half of this shows. So for one, it's librarians that are teaching information literacy to students. And that means a lot of different things, but think research skills or media literacy. It is teachers or teacher librarians that are working with a flexible schedule, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So not just scheduled classes all day, every day, but have some room to collaborate with teachers. They're doing in-service training, they're collaborating with other teachers on their curriculum. And they're hosting a lot of student visits, right? It's not like you're just in the library. It's about like encouraging as many student visits as possible. We'll skip the higher expenditures. But seriously, it is related, higher expenditures for a library is related to all this as well. Okay, we can go back, Sean, to the. And then you can go to the next one. So this is Michaela's slide. She works with TK through 4. She sees TK on a regular basis, that's once per week. In K through 4, she's got scheduled classes, that's once per cycle for every single class K through 4. And so she's a list here of some of the things that she works on with those classes. She also, and I think this is amazing, finds time to collaborate with teachers, even though she has such a packed schedule every single day. But she's moving between multiple buildings as well. The pictures from Michaela over the last couple of years, most recently the reading games. So she's got some of her winning teams. This just happened last week. She has an author visit at the top. This is Andrea Beatty, and she is an incredible picture book author. She did Rosie the Riveter, a number of other ones, and having her here was really a huge success. And that was thanks to Dragonfly, and I'll get to that later. They really help us bring authors into the area. We just don't have authors that are just happen to be in Decorah, right? It's like, so Dragonfly really helps with making that happen for us. Okay. 5 through 12 is what I work with. I have a regular 5th and 6th grade class. So I see those students in 5th and 6th grade for 36 days total in a year, so that I hit every kid in 5th and 6th grade. We work on just getting used to a new library, reading ideas, resources in terms of research. We cover media literacy starting in 6th grade. So those are just some of the things I touch on. And then I'm working collaboratively with people, so that's a flexible schedule. So at the middle school, there's a lot of things I do. I just kind of put a highlight of some of the things. So for example, 8th grade National History Day, that's a huge research project for students. I work with those 8th grade students on topic selection, writing a thesis, evaluating sources, citing sources. It's all the different parts of a research process. I also work really hard in creating a culture of reading with ELA teachers and with Justin. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to encourage more reading. We've carved out 10 minutes of time of reading in study hall and WIN, also in reading classes, which you guys have heard of before. And then at the high school, I am entirely flexible schedule, have an entirely flexible schedule, so that I am reaching out to teachers, going to their meetings, seeking out, what they might need. They're seeking me out. There's a range of things I do. I mean, I kind of think of it as two-pronged. It's like research and especially online literacy in terms of what is credible and what's not. So that's media literacy, but also in terms of encouraging reading. So we have had a couple projects over the last few years that allow students to have some choice in the ELA curriculum. So for example, we have a dystopian unit, which is students will select a dystopic fiction book and they'll read it as a small group, but it gives them some choice so that it's not just we're reading one book in class. And those are great things too, but this allows for some choice. For health, we have a memoir that they are required to read, and Health 1 is required. Also, I do a unit on understanding levels of scientific evidence and evaluating kind of the health and wellness industry and some of the information that they're putting out. Comp 1 and 2 is just another example. We introduced the SIFT method, which is a method of evaluating online sources. This is coming from colleges and universities, and has been something I've adapted for high school. We end up going to Luther for a couple of classes, and we do advanced, academic research in those classes so that they're ready for college. And again, these are just a couple examples. This is not everything I do. Okay. And the picture slide. So this is our winning team. Look, winning team for reading games is here. And so that was last week. We had 91 students sign up. That is a record in the 16 years I've been here. This is celebrating 10,000 books, which happened a couple weeks ago. These are books that are going out to book club at the high school. So these are books that kids get to keep, and this is not coming out of our budget. These are funds that I look elsewhere for, but I've had high participation in that. These are students collecting a dystopic fiction novel or going through and kind of ranking the ones they find most interesting. And then a student who read all 12. We had, I think, 22 kids this year that read all 12 of the reading games books. So that's kind of one of the challenges. So working those things in to encourage reading is a big part of what I do. But there's more. So it's not just about being in the classroom, although that's and teaching. There's more to being a librarian. Of course, I talked about host the reading games for grades 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I talked a little bit about the book club. I collaborate with Decorah Public Library to make that happen. We have author visits almost every year. We've had some incredible author visits, and a lot of that is thanks to Dragonfly and the Oneota Literacy Foundation. So support comes from a lot of different places. It comes from our budget, which is a solid budget for our libraries compared to what they have around the state. And so I've been really appreciative of that, but we also look elsewhere so we can do special projects. So Decorah FEC helps us, especially with reading games. I've applied for and received Depot grants. I've applied for and received a STEM grant. I've received 2 McElroy grants from Keystone. One was for the stationary bikes we have in the middle school library. And one was recently for the audiobooks that we have, which are play-away devices that kids can tuck in their pocket and listen. They don't have to be on their computer. So that supports a wide range of different learners. And then donations from local businesses just recently for 10,000 books, and also for reading games. We had prizes that were donated from Impact, from Twisted Gnome, from Dragonfly. And then there are the non-teaching responsibilities, so collection management, ordering books, weeding, which just means removing books that are outdated, selecting books, and that's our selection development policy, reading reviews, making sure that things meet the standards of what we want to add them to our library. We manage and train our library paras, which we have in every building. We manage the Keystone electronic resources in terms of making sure people know what they are, and the media delivery, which comes through the library. We have additional tools we purchase. NewsGuard is something we have 5 through 12 that helps students and teachers evaluate the credibility of online news sources. It actually gives you a score in Chrome. And so we manage that and teach that and use that a lot. Gale in Context is just a database that is purchased to support the history curriculum. Noodle Tools is for citing sources. BookG is a social media book site. So it's talking about books in a social media format for middle school students. And we follow current trends. Like Michaela has also hosted library practicum students over the years, a couple of them. So that was fast and furious, but this is what we do.
It's important, bravo to all you do.
Yes,
The
thank you.
students feel welcome in all of our school libraries, and it's just so impressive, the different ways that you're connecting our students with literature. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks for listening.
Again, does the
Thank you.
board have any
Thanks.
other questions or comments?
Yes, happy to take questions.
I'm continually impressed with the that comes in the different programs, both within the class and outside of the class. So thanks for all the work on it. I know it's extra effort.
Yeah, I
Go
really
ahead,
want to
Carol.
thank Shannon and Michaela for all that they do, and really commend them for knowing their students, knowing the interest of their students, with making sure that they match books with the students, and also for being leaders in the schools, for helping teachers with keeping up with technology and with citing sources, with Noodle Tools, with NewsGuard, and all of these resources that Shannon is always one step ahead of what we need in the schools. And there's no way that students in 8th grade could do NHD without all of the work that the librarians do with the teachers and students before that. I subbed in a 2nd grade classroom a few weeks ago, and I was impressed that they were already doing a research project, and they were already doing amazing searches and citing sources and putting together this just amazing project. And I just commend the teachers and Michaela for putting together all that needs to be taught at such an early age that continues all the way through high school. So thank you for all that you do.
Thanks for being here tonight to present to us. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item A is approval of the 2026-27 academics calendar. And Tim, I'm gonna let you talk us through the highlights first, and then we'll.
So this just reflects taking the late start Wednesdays off. That created 6 full days. When we first talked about that last month, we were gonna maybe put them on Wednesdays. lots of reasons we like them on Wednesday, participation rate not being one, probably being the highest one. But in getting kind of feedback, working with teacher groups, we have a district leadership team, and some of the feedbacks we got from parents that, as we talk, this is gonna be convenient for some people and not so convenient for other people. But at least try to strategically place those days off rather than Wednesday in the middle of the week. Could we put them near the weekend so that, they might be convenient for, travel so then we focused, just wanting to be consistent, we were putting them all on Mondays. We did want a day in September, so we grabbed the May day and we moved it up to, instead of September 7th, which is already a day off, we put it on Tuesday, September 8th. So that's a 4-day weekend. Obviously, teachers come back on the Tuesday and have a professional development day. I think those are the big changes. All the new PD days were just added with white font on the letter. So the new days are September 8th, Tuesday, September 8th, and then the following Mondays, October 5th, November 30th, January 4th, March 1st, and April 5th. We strayed a little bit on the formula of the first Monday in December, just because it fit a little bit better coming back from Thanksgiving, and with our breaks and schedule. I don't know if it was semester or conferences, but you're just always there's certain reasons that certain days work better than others. So from admin team to district leadership team, this is kind of the compromise that we came up with for the calendar. And as we think about construction season, that's one of the other things is there's a little bit of a desire to try to have school out in May of 27 before Memorial Day for sure, and then we'll look at how the progress goes throughout the course of next year. And so next year, it's time I'll be talking about what do we think would be a good time to start school in fall of 27. And we may say an extra week will be beneficial to the construction, but we'll approve one calendar at a time.
And we know that next year is gonna be a unique year.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so I know that the one thing that catches my attention is that there's many 4-day weeks in February, March, kind of stacked up in a row. There's pros and cons to that, and I understand that there's probably reasons, because then I'm looking like, oh, like the February 12th and 15th, that's like a 4-day weekend that we want all of our staff to enjoy and have off. So I'm glad that they're still getting that long weekend off, but I don't know. Are there any notes to highlight?
I suppose what contractually President's Day, February 15th is an all staff no work day. And then we've always taken off I don't know exactly how it's worded in master contract, but there's an Easter break or a spring break, and it's supposed to coincide with Easter. So that would be the March 26th, 29th days. So really so that the new thing was, where do we put the March 1st day? It just happened to be on the Monday, which coincided with the Friday PD day. So yeah, that does create another 4-day weekend, and kind of talked about that, but where conferences lie and all sorts of other events going on in the schools, that's kind of where we landed.
My thoughts kind of revolve around May, just counting our hours, gotta get to 1080. I'll keep my fingers crossed we don't end up with a lot of snow days, but I would foresee us probably ending up with a couple of those. The green ones listed, the 19th, 20th, 21st. I would assume we'll hit one of those. What was teacher feedback or admin team feedback about the PD day on the 24th?
Well, that's an asynchronous PD day, so we, if we do have those 3D days, like if teachers get their stuff
This
done.
isn't one of the
Yes,
six.
yeah, so that's not one of the 6. The asynchronous PD days are slotted for the last day of school, and we tucked the other one into December 23rd. As a reminder, was politely said to me, I'd never have school on December 23rd.
I heard that too.
Yes.
Oh,
I think we know, as we said, that no calendar is ever gonna meet everybody's needs. I think one of the comments that we were shared with was about sort of the disruption of the February, March and clumping TV time to other things. But I guess I just take heart that this is not just typical, not all of these are typical professional development, it's also the PLC time, which is special time for the teams to collaborate together. And so clumping that without the regular check-ins is the loss of the Wednesday late starts is already loss of that regular check-in time for the teams. So I think spreading those days out as much as possible over the year, even if it is disruptive the schedule, is important to give the teams as much regular time together as they can. And I guess I'd request admin to guard that time for teams as much as possible to be able to use it in their collaborative way that it needs to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say the feedback we have received have been both sides, and I think we knew when we made changes. If, at least they're not all on one side where, I think it's understand why we did it, and so I think it's will work.
Yeah, I think the big thing we haven't brought up at this point is that we have to make some of these changes because of the state budgets.
Mhm.
Like, we don't have a lot of choice outside of starting to consider, are we cutting
Yeah,
staff or programs
yeah.
or? And so I view this as it's an excellent change that tries to address it without impacting our staffing the number of people who get to
Right.
work with our students, provide the best education system possible. We already know we have that here, so. I think this does a great job trying to bridge a tricky situation.
The feedback that I've heard from teachers has been positive as far as having a more continuity within the week and not having that Wednesday late start. And they feel that this will be advantageous to them to meet for full day PD. And I want to reiterate what Lily said to, make sure that there's a lot of team time because that is very valuable for the teachers. There is some PD time that happens with paras on those late start Wednesdays. And I guess I am feeling uncomfortable with cutting 6 days of pay for the paras. And we have heard from some of the paras that this is going to be quite a hardship for them. So that does seem to be something from my understanding that we are still working on. How many of those days there might be in service on professional development for our paras. And I would encourage our administrative team to continue to talk about that and decide, come up with the good plan for training our paras and giving them the time that they need for increasing their skills as well. And for us to work with the paras on what we can do to not make a big hole in their income.
So Brad, Justin, Tori and I met and we came up with a PLC plan that's once a month, basically good morning. So we really come together to figure out what that's gonna look like. I think it'll be the same every time we have one of those days once a month. And I have met with Shanna and Laura to talk about, maybe we emailed them, but talk about bringing in paras on certain times during those days to make sure that we are providing for these. So we are on that already, and we'll be talking about it again this week at our admin meeting.
Hearing no other feedback, I'll move that we approve the 26-27 academic school calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, we had a motion from Aaron and a second from Brad. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Sorry, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next is first reading of board policy 704.4 gifts, grants, and bequests. And I want to start by expressing gratitude to our athletic boosters, our fine arts boosters, our FEC, volunteers, teacher staff, all the people who help inspire philanthropic support in our school district. We're in a very complicated time when it comes to public school funding, and we're going to need to depend on that philanthropic support in the time to come. During my 5 years on the Decorah School Board, I don't remember ever reviewing a financial gift. And in the attachment today is drafted language of our existing gift policy, which is adopted directly from IASB, and it's very brief. And the language drafted in the recommended revised policy is pretty specific. And I just wanted to share that I've worked with both Tim and Adam Riley to just gather information, ask questions, and I want us to, today we're not approving, this is the first reading. I wanted to give us time to talk. I wanted to give us time to think and, refine language to potentially approve in the future. I want a policy that works for our current board and not only the individuals on our board today, but the board members after us as well. I want to continue, I don't want to slow down things that are working well today, but I do want improved communication with the board so we can be fully aware and have approval and oversight in areas defined in this policy. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board for other comments or discussion.
Tim, I'm gonna say a big thank you for going out there and looking at what are other districts doing. Found it really interesting to read, like, what's the difference between what Iowa City says and what Ames says, or we're picking on some of the larger school districts, but.
And I should probably, I didn't put in anybody who just had the standard, like 80 to 90% of districts would have just the ISAB policy. But yeah, it is kind of interesting because clearly districts have gotten to a point where they want to make sure they are watching and have a procedure that's a little bit more detailed. So yeah.
Getting back to one of the thoughts you raised right at the beginning, Cindy, which is gratitude to all the groups that are supporting our students. I think there could be an addition, the second paragraph, the district values the support, then we kind of end it, period. I think we could add something to the effect of, and encourages collaboration in advance of fundraising efforts to align district priorities to benefit the education of our students. Something that's grounding it in the background, but also we want this discourse. We want to think about the new elementary school, and it's like, well, if somebody's really wants to help fundraise for playground equipment, like, let's talk and partner and make sure that we're getting the thing we both want. And so I think that's the biggest thought I had. It's just talking about the alignment and how we want alignment. We would probably need some fundraising, so let's make sure that we're fundraising in concert and not in our separate silos.
One quick point that I wanted to add. Other district policies that Dr. Cronin had pulled talked about a $1,000 threshold. I felt that was really low. I'm not interested in the board getting into the minutia of absolutely everything that is happening, because I think we have a really unique school district where there's a lot of support. So that dollar threshold is high, but it also has language very specific, like regardless of the gift size, if there's gonna be construction, the board needs to review that. If there's going to be naming rights, the board needs to review that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 10,000 wouldn't do much of a full-blown project, so if somebody wants to buy jerseys or something, I mean, that's
That can still happen.
yeah, without coming through there, so that's just the one thought I had of. And with being in some of the other newer schools that we've been in at other events, it's amazing to see how many name gymnasiums there are after local businesses and, you know, obviously those are newer buildings and that's an opportunity going forward.
Brad Darling.
Golf cart.
Elementary.
Well played, well played.
Golf cart, that's.
Yeah.
I had to
For
think
getting
of,
people to and from the
Yeah.
other side of the football.
yeah,
I wanted to know. Sorry, Carol.
No, you go ahead, Lily. Go ahead.
Ask some clarification on the gift shall not be accepted if they are intended to offset or replace fees properly assessed by the district. And what we mean by fees within that. Does that mean that we would not accept a gift to pay off student lunch debt or? Subsidize all of the activity fees for our students for a year, and I know we have to balance sort of making it equitable to all students, but if it was a big check coming for all of those for every student, are we backing ourselves into a corner where we can't accept that kind of gift? And maybe that's intentional, but it was one of the things that I wanted clarification on.
I think that's a great clarifying question. When I read it, thinking about the context that I have, and it's like, okay, if I'm taking this training trip, you can't give me you can't make your gift to the athletic booster, swimming athletic booster side to pay for the training trip. It's not tax deductible. Like you have to
Right.
outright pay. You can't replace the fee for going on the trip. That's the way I read it, but I think it's an excellent question to.
And
Mhm.
I think in my role at Seed Savers Exchange as Development Director and tax deductible donations, services, just like Erin described, are not tax deductible. So I think it's to make it as clean as possible for the organizations accepting the gift and then providing a
Mhm.
letter of acknowledgement, else on which.
And we'll look and see if we can make that more specific, because I can see how that could be interpreted. I took it as just school fees, certainly not lunch fees, but there might be times. Yeah, we just want to be a little bit more clear. That's more specificity in that.
The only thought, I don't have anything else to really dig into the language here. The question I have is, are we going to use eventually, second reading, pass it, etc.? When does this become our next policy? And are we going to grandfather anything in, or will we fully just function off of the new one once the date of
It's a good question.
future passage?
Yeah,
Mhm.
let's talk about that. I know that we are a governance board. And we want to focus on policy and implementing that policy for future work. And I would see changes to this policy being applicable to gifts that have not been accepted yet. And in some of the projects that inspired me to think about this more, in asking more questions since our last school board meeting, I learned that gifts had been accepted. In-kind gifts had been accepted. And I acknowledge that our existing policy says that the board will review all financial gifts. The reality is, we weren't working in that way. And I I don't feel good about leading a governance board and then going back to a donor that has been told, yes, we're gonna put this to work, to say, no, there's been an intervention and the way that we have been working for years and years is changing. I don't feel good about that. But I wanna talk about that as a board and think about ways that we can best support our staff, best do good for the community members that wanna make donations. And put this policy to work in the right way.
I'll say that I don't think the new one substantially changes the biggest components of the boilerplate ISB policy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're still gonna review the gifts, just like it said we would have before. I do think it, if somebody wants to donate a cello to the school or a tuba, it's like, okay, that's under 10,000. I don't know that we need to review that, but I do think this adds a lot of clarity to future planning as well as what we're hoping to see moving forward as well.
I have a couple of thoughts on what Erin said earlier. And also about the discussion now. We did have a potential very large gift that the Fritzes had offered to the school district. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because of space considerations. But I do appreciate that they did come to the board and present to the board and talk to the board about this potential gift, which would be an impact not only on the school district, but also the city of Decorah. And I think when we have gifts that have that kind of potential, that's something that we need to tread very lightly and carefully on. So I would like to add or propose a couple of additional items for this policy that we're working on, that groups or individuals who plan to raise money for a potential gift should get pre-approval from the school board before organizing a fundraising drive, which the Fritzes did, and I appreciated that. If they would have gone and done all of that fundraising and then come to the school board, that would have put us in a pickle and made it very difficult for him for getting back to all of those donors, when that gift didn't work out. I also think that if a gift requires a variance or other legal measures with the city or other government entity, that the donating group really must first have that potential gift approved by the school board and have a district representative accompany that donating party to the official government meeting, and not first fundraise and first get a variance and then come to the board. That makes it just very clunky and difficult for the school district and the board. I think there needs to be conversation about gifts, right at the very beginning, especially if they're going to be a large gift.
I wonder, I think those are good suggestions to think about, Carol. And I'm wondering, one question that I had as you were talking was, when there's an idea for a project, and maybe the language as written covers some of that. Can you think of an example that we would need to approve that doesn't meet, we say $10,000, but that the way that the language is worded, that's for an individual gift. So let's say that there's a bunch of gifts for $5,000 that adds up to a larger money amount. But outside of a project that would require construction, I'm just wondering, can we think of an example? I don't want to get too bogged down, or I want to refine, like if they're going to be fundraising for a project, I want to talk more about that and how, because that's pretty broad.
I'll say I like the point about, if we're gonna need some kind of variance, some kind of change that the city's approving, yeah, that should be before us, before it's getting to the city. Like, then maybe we in the city can talk to each other before, it's coming up to be approved and we've ironed out the wrinkles before we get there. I think that's really smart. I don't know quite the language to write that in here, but I think that would be a great addition. The part of, the gifts we would need to review, where it gets into, doesn't create ongoing financial obligations, staffing needs, facility modifications. I'm coming at a loss to be able to think of something that's not going to hit one of those. So what the example of the Fritz, the music pavilion, I think is an excellent case to use as our. Yeah, that would have come before us under this policy. It would have, ongoing financial obligations, facility modifications, like we're gonna hit some of those. They did it in a really wise way to, bring it forward before starting to do all the legwork, so I agree with you there. I don't know if there's a way we can put that in governance policy to say you have to pre-approve things with us, but I think that's the way it should function.
Well, and, I don't know. Maybe I know that Tim, has kept us updated. Maybe it's simply in our way of working now to just in your weekly email updates or other to continue to keep us informed. I don't know.
There's a couple of things I think, future donations that might possibly get requests. That might be large, capital projects. One thing is, I think we'll see those probably have existed or will exist on the capital projects that we'll look at here a little bit. And we always have ideas, we have the ones that we're recommending, and then I actually put a yellow bold line and like, we're not recommending anything below the yellow, but that's on our radar. And if Adam or someone gets a donor that comes in and says, I wanna do something for the music program, or, and then Adam were to say, well, this is on the list, we're gonna move it up. But then we do bring that capital projects back to the board. So
And the board has seen, that's it is a pre-approved.
yeah, so that's
Mr. Evans,
a way of making sure the board understands the cost of what it is, and yeah, you're approving that list. And so we don't, and we've got the starter list now. We tend to bring that back a couple times, or at least maybe not for approval, but we'll say, hey, we got a number for what the van's gonna cost, and we plugged it in, and it was right around there, so we move forward with it. But that, in my mind, that's one layer that maybe we need to emphasize more on, putting it on the list of. And then that also helps that part of, if somebody were to say, I want to just do something around reading at the schools, or I want to do something around playground. Well, do we have a playground project that we'd like to do that, is on the 10-year plan or 5-year plan, and we just haven't moved it up? I don't see anybody like saying, gosh, I'd really like to replace the roofs at the Harry Lee, but maybe
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
hit it big. That's what Old Man Cronin will donate to the roof fund. Yeah, I think that's another way to kind of pre-approval, just make sure the board kind of understands what projects we're working on and thinking of. And then we could, as we get folks that come up and want to do stuff, we could add it to that list, and you get it in front of the board, so you're like, oh, okay, so at some point in time, we're going to get a new piano for the music program, or lights, or regular.
I think, Aaron, your kind of suggestion to kind of emphasize the collaborative nature between the district and various boosters, covering all of the umbrellas of groups that support the district. I think that'll help if we become more interchanged between the organizations. I feel like, Adam, that is like primarily your role, is my guess, and I don't want to step on those roles, but I also would like to offer this board as a resource to help you have those conversations, because it's important for us to know those things too. And it doesn't need to be only on your shoulders, I think, so, and it would help us know more about what the needs are and who in the community is looking to support those. So I think that increased communication will help address some of those. I was trying to think of an example for you, Cindy, and the only thing I could think of is like somebody coming in and saying, I want to donate 5 new of these really fancy like microscopes for the science rooms. Maybe that would create the ongoing financial maintenance costs, but it could slide under the 10,000. And that's where we would just hope that the communication with the science team, the building team would help navigate those too, but no, we're just a box microscope showing up on a doorstep. Because they might not be utilized either, so it's really the emphasizing of what does the school need and how does it integrate.
Right. And like you said, I want to provide a policy that the district can lean on when things get hard. To say, you know,
I think one of the biggest things we'll see out of this is we're revamping the policy. We had a policy and just talking about it is gonna make us more inactive in tune of maybe a little bit more what we should have been doing beforehand. And everybody might be more on the same page. I think we'll gain just as much out of having these conversations as what the changes we're making to the policy. Because I mean, policies tend to get buried.
Something that's been said by both Carol and now Lily, brings up maybe one wording change or addition or that we might want to consider, which is maybe have an estimated cumulative value of $10,000 or less. So what if there's 5 microscopes and I want to donate 1 this month, 1 next month, 1 the month after that? You know, we're talking about
so
a sequence and it's
have an
like,
estimated value or cumulative value.
yeah, something that's saying like, maybe there is a bequest that wants to come in to honor a student scholarship in perpetuity. But it's $5,000 here, and it's $1,000 there, and it has a larger purpose. So how do we tie it all back together that, yep, if we're gonna start the scholarship, I'm gonna use the scholarship fund as the one that it's gonna cross the 10,000 cumulative threshold, then yeah, like that, let's bring that forward so we can talk about it and hopefully celebrate it as well.
I think going back to the grant, was there any more discussion about Aaron's point before I go back to something else?
No. Go
Okay.
ahead, Carol.
Looking at the, thinking about the grandfathering in projects, and I look at our present gift policy, it says, gifts, grants, and bequests are approved by the board. Once it has been approved by the board, a board member or the superintendent may accept the gift on behalf of the school district. So that has been our policy in the past. And so I would say that anything that is not actually in the school or on our grounds and in place at this point will come under this new policy. I would say a verbal agreement to someone that a gift may or may not be accepted is not enough to grandfather it in, because our previous policy states gifts, grants, and bequests are approved by the board. And so I think that's what should govern our grandfathering in any projects.
Even if the person donating their money or services has been told yes.
Well, have they been told yes by the board? That's clearly what it said in our policy, that it would be by the board.
Right.
If the board
No.
did tell them yes, then I would say then the project is a go. If the board did not tell them yes, then it needs to come before the board. That's clearly what our previous policy said.
Right. But yes, and that's not the way that we've been working. I just want to acknowledge that again. And I know that I said it before, but I hear what you're saying and I don't disagree with the language.
At some point, we just need to cut it off and make a line and say, okay, that this is where the line is, and going forward, we're going to be more on top of this.
So to try to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, Carol, and I'm just don't want to say I'm regurgitating back to you, but I want to make sure I understood you and what you were saying. What you're saying is we have a board policy in place. And so we need to follow that until a new one is fleshed out, approved. So we should continue functioning under the old one, which is that any gift we don't have needs to come before the board for approval. And once we get to the point where this is, fleshed out and we've approved it, then, okay, then if it's a $4,000 microscope, great, cool. And if it's something larger than that, then
Mhm. That seems clear to me. I mean, we had a policy in place. That's what we need to go by.
Any other comments?
I think that's gonna take a lot more discussion, where that line is drawn. I think there are certain levels of trust that we as a board have to maintain with our community, and we have to be really careful as we navigate those, so. I don't think it impacts the letters that are, or the language that is written here. I think it might be additional language that's added, but, that has to be a really thoughtful question, because how far back that grandfathering goes is a slippery slope.
I can think back to, I think this was a couple years ago, maybe we got a new baseball scoreboard or softball scoreboard.
Baseball.
That's the last one I can think of that, was
The weight room.
Weight
Weight
room.
room.
Oh, yep, sorry. Yep, there was another one in there. Yeah, that
That's a big project.
was a big project too. I mean, we look at the donated books list, but that falls under a separate category, but I mean, we haven't seen a lot. I haven't experienced a lot come before the board in this way to this point, but I hope there's a lot more moving forward. And so that's my hope is let's work in collaboration together. Let's build the things that we need to as a group and not do it piecemeal, but do it in concert and tandem.
And yeah, I just want to add on, I mean, I 100% appreciate what our music boosters and athletic boosters and the FEC, all of the money that they raise and the donations that they make. And I mean, we probably could increase the communication between those groups and the board with just a report of what their fundraisers are fundraising for, every few months or whatever, and just make sure that there is approval. But I mean, for the most part, we are jumping up and down for joy at all of the the amazing fundraising and work that they do for the school district.
So this is a first reading. We don't need board action tonight. Is, are we ready to move on?
Do we
I
usually?
think we usually
Do we
need an
approve?
actionable item to get it to the second, otherwise we're still
Yeah, we-
functioning on a first.
Whether right or wrong, since I've been here, I'm pretty sure this board accepts the first reading.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd have to, because I've
I don't
been to my
think
other
it- I don't
districts,
think it
but
hurts to have that formality. Let's do it.
I'll make a motion to accept the first reading of the donation board policy.
If we are accepted, I'll second the motion. And just to clarify, if we are accepting the first policy, we're not necessarily accepting it as written, as,
Correct.
correct, okay.
Right.
we
Then I
have notes.
I did
Cindy
second.
and I both typed notes on, Cindy and I both typed notes on it was meant to be a draft, and it certainly is.
Okay, so we have Brad with the motion, Carol with the second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed, same
I did
sign.
say aye.
Yep, we got you, thanks. Okay, motion carries. We removed item C, so we're moving on to item D, which is to review the audit report for the 2025-26 school year. And thank you to Aaron and Dr. Cronin for meeting with professionals from Hecker and Nelson who did our internal audit. In reviewing a robust audit like this, I usually skip to look at the comments and recommendations. We did have a staffing switch during this time period, so the comments acknowledge that, and then it also, my perception and takeaway, and Aaron and Dr. Cronin, I'll let you speak to this as well. My perception were that our school district, was in really good shape, and very few corrective comments and actions. We did acknowledge during the meeting too that we have a new central admin office team, and we want to give them support moving through this year so they're prepared for the audit next summer. So happy to support them as much as possible.
Yeah, they kind of, I think, went out of the way to say that it was a positive audit. I shared that video with the board. They use a template where they look for certain things. And so, like I could say on page 60, when they're looking at travel expense, everybody they audit, they look at travel expense. And I'm not sure every audit I'll have to look back and see Central City. I don't know if the audit firm we had there looked at everything, because you think, well, are you looking at it because there's a problem, or are you just looking at it because it's part of standard operating procedures? Segregation of duties is one, but I think we will be able to segregate duties more than we have in the past with kind of the way we restructured the office. And I think we feel good about that, because you don't ever want to have one person who kind of does it all. That auditors don't like that, and it's just not a good business practice. So yeah.
And there were a few comments that they said most districts have this comment.
Yeah, there's a comment in there that's been showing up for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Districts, we don't carry enough in our management fund to cover everybody's retirement, which is, of course, ISIS. And districts couldn't do that. That's not part of how we operate. So it's a weird thing to put in there, but apparently somehow that's supposed to be noted that IPERS, even though it's a very well funded state pension program, it's only funded at like 83%. But it's way better than other states that you hear about. So it's a very healthy retirement program, but since it's not funded at 100%, districts are supposed to. The only way we get rid of this comment is if we carried the difference, carried the 17% that they don't fund, which we wouldn't do, because then we'd be taxing for money that we couldn't use and wouldn't want to use, and it would be an unfair burden. So I should say my favorite comment is in the student activity count number 14. It's when a student, when like the senior class of 24 has money left over because they didn't use it on graduation. And I've had like 10 years old senior class, and in their mind, they're thinking the school's holding on to that money for their reunion. And maybe in a former district, we got a call that they wanted to come by and get their cash because they were going to have like an open bar at T-Box or Kegger or whatever. And we kind of had to politely say, no, that's activity fund. We'll just transfer it into another activity fund. We don't give it out as cash 10 years down the line. So anyway.
Yeah, you hit the big notes that we spent a lot of time talking about. I think it's probably helpful to note like where the site is. I don't want to say that you shouldn't read the whole document, but it's 63 pages long. You get to like page 57, 61, something like that.
60.
Yeah,
They start their comments.
Exactly. And if you're a layman trying to read this document, that's where
57.
Yeah, but I would start reading the end of the document. I wouldn't actually start at the front. But yeah, the things we've heard before from the audit finding, which I wasn't surprised by. I think Tim actually has good ideas in mind about the new structure of office here and how we can build, quote unquote, the controls that are a challenge. I mean, unless you are a really large school district with a lot of office staff, it would be very hard to have
And thanks for recording the meeting, not only to share with board directors, but also to share with our business admin team. Just for future reference and to listen back and have this resource. Are there any other questions from the board?
I don't have any questions.
Let's review. We need to be saying approve as well.
We do need to
Accept it.
approve it.
Yeah. Receive it, accept it. So, yeah, I think we make a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve the audit report for 2025-2026.
I'll second.
I'm hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is item E. Approve the district representation letter.
So this is also from Hacker Nelson, and it just kind of spells out the details of how they'll represent us on this audit now that it's done, and it becomes an agreement on if there's any questions or stuff, what they do and what we do. So I don't know, Joan, I kind of put you on the spot here. How would you just describe the representation letter?
Just the fact that we've engaged them to perform our audit and that they're acknowledging what they can provide, what they are auditing and what they're not. I mean, they're auditing your financial statement. They're not looking for particular, fraud or things like that. And it's just that you're hiring them to, it's kind of like their engagement letter, I would say, just telling us what the audit actually represents. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
But this is for the one that was just completed. Not the one from-
Yeah. One that was just completed.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the representation letter from Hacker Nelson.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is item F, approval of the Morningside agreement for teacher education placements.
This is a pretty standard letter that we get from, also, we should see some other ones, hopefully from Luther and the University of Iowa and whatnot. Maybe have a 2-year agreement with Luther, but we need to have these in place before we would take on a student teacher. I can't tell you the last time we had a Morningside person, but this at least gives us an option. So these are pretty standard.
Have a paper trail.
Yeah,
Good share.
I'll make a motion to approve our Morningside teacher education placement.
Second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
My only question is, we see, not to pick on this one specifically, but I mentally recall seeing a Morningside one last year and the year before that. Is there any reason that it couldn't be a longer term document? And maybe that's feedback we could offer to them.
yeah, that would be fun. At Morningside, from my experience, they send out, they're just really good at getting the batch stuff out. Some people are better than other colleges. I imagine they probably have run into a situation where they've tried to, a student teacher wants to be in a certain district and they don't have an agreement. So shoot, we don't have an agreement with them. Not that you couldn't get one approved, but think about, we had a person who wanted to do a study and I said, well, we're gonna let this person into our school. We need to have a board agreement that that's okay. And the same with the student teacher. So, yeah, we can give them feedback that we're more than happy to do a multi-year agreement so that you don't have to do this every year.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is item G, approval of capital projects. And Tim talked about this before. This is a list of projects that are paid for through our capital and save fund. And I just also want to celebrate the passing of extending our couple fund for 10 more years. A huge thank you to the Decorah community. That passed overwhelmingly, and I just feel this tremendous support from everyone in our community. So thank you. And that funding goes to work and helps define a lot of things in our district, including the projects that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, echo what Cindy said, that gives us a peace of mind. There's potential legislation with SAVE, whether it be, what the state's gonna do with the SAVE revenues moving forward. And or if you borrow against PEPAL or SAVE right now, you just have to have a public hearing. In the future, there's legislation that you might have to, if you're gonna build an athletic standalone facility, so like an indoor swimming pool that Lily wants, or, okay. If we want to do that, we say, hey, we're gonna borrow against SAVE for this, you would have to go to a bond. That was put in. There were some, in my mind, some school districts in Lynn County that were building indoor swimming pools and football fields that they did to them. Anyway, this just gives us peace of mind. We won't have to rush and borrow any money. There might be some districts that do that and borrow against SAVE before any potential laws go into effect. So that being said, I put in our carryover, our anticipated revenue, try to underestimate. We still have some SAVE revenue payments that we're making. I believe that those revenue payments go through 2029. You will notice that we don't have any, I just put as a placeholder, we're not making any PEPAL bond payments because we've paid that loan off. So that added about $500,000 that back in our budget. So we anticipate having about $4 million in revenue, and today's capital projects are about excuse me. By the time we, if I get this right, by the time we add in the SAVE, so the PEPAL is, we anticipate a revenue and carryover and having about 2.7 million, and SAVE was 4.3 million, taking out the payment, so a total of 4.3 plus 2.7, and then I did subtract out the 2.8 in recommended projects. So after we would do all this stuff, we'd be sitting with the 4,235,000. That's how that math works. These are all high priority one-time things. Some of them are annual. I did ask, you know, we also have a rule of anytime that the project's going to be over 25,000, we bring it back once we have the final bid to the board to approve. And you'll notice in the agenda, we actually have a couple of those. There are a few of these that are very time sensitive in trying to get approval for E-rate projects by the end of March so that we can qualify for the 60% match from the state. So that's, or not state, federal government. I believe the Apple is also time sensitive so that we could get the 0% lease before that changes April 1st. April 15th. There's a couple other where there's been donated. So I just asked buildings and grounds, and so we could approve them all, but everything above the yellow is what we're recommending. Anything in column A that's kind of that aqua blue is something that is time sensitive, and we'd like those approved today. And if you go below the yellow line, we have the one-time new school stuff. We don't want to forget about all of that stuff. I don't have estimates in there. We certainly want to get the furniture ordered. We could do that anytime, but we don't want to rush to that, and that's going to require some more review by staff so we get the right stuff.
One question I had on that, didn't we add the bleachers into
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
bond?
say, I don't need to have the bleachers on here anymore. I'll take that off. Just saw that myself. So, yeah, I haven't compared my list. If you look down below, after the new school stuff, you've just got the deferred project stuff that, maybe if we had a good price, maybe we'd bring it back to the board and say, we'd like to add this to the list, but this just kind of stuff is all stuff that, we have on our list that's a future kind of thing. We are taking, I had that in red, the the copiers and the Metronet, we're holding on copiers this year. And Metronet, we're going away, they're going with a different thing that's already in this proposal. So,
Can you explain what row 18 is referring to? They're just different sections in the high school.
oh, sure, the roof bids.
Oh,
The
those
roof,
are groups.
the buildings and grounds roof bids, those are specifically, sections that are numbered in the roof. And that doesn't completely do Thomas Roberts. In fact, we're still gonna get an assessment where they come out and specifically tell us section 12 has 5 good years or whatever. So we're still gonna build our priority that way. Perry Lee, I think, will be closer to being a complete roof, but still not all the way done. And of course, the middle school has a brand new roof, and the new elementary school will have a brand new roof. So those are those.
I'm just gonna ask a clarifying question because it's the thought going through my head. And if something comes up, you'll add it to the list and we'll review it
Absolutely.
moving forward.
So this will probably be the first time. I think I showed it to you 3 or 4 times. Usually when we do stuff, we put in the final number, we make it, non-color, but if we bring something back or we get a price, then we'll highlight the color so the board can go, oh, it looks like there's a piano that they wanna add to this project or something. Not to skip over anything, Sean's got a bunch of technology switches. Those are all E-rate, again, 60% matched. Our purchased IT services, we should get a contract from Grant Wood, Keystone AEA. On that, I think the mowers, Curtis would say that's a time savings purchase. The 104-inch deck can mow the soccer field in 15 minutes.
Well,
12.
Oh, wow.
And currently it
That's
takes how long to mow the soccer field?
5 minutes to it.
45 minutes to an hour. So an opportunity to upgrade there. In a rare time when transportation and athletics gets together and agrees, not a rare time, they always agree, but just looking at adding some more 12-passenger vans. So we just had 1 route bus this year. Probably we would have done 2 route buses, but we're hoping that, not that it's an exact exchange for the money, but it's close. Having more 12-passenger routes, we can send our we can use one 12-passenger van on a route and also have those available for activities. And we feel like with 1 or 2 more available 12-passenger vans, we'll be able to not take the buses to as many things, which saves fuel costs. I think we did the math on it, and 3 vans maybe uses about the same amount of fuel as 1 bus, fuel costs. But you can have coaches drive the vans if you have enough coaches for the sport. And then if it's like an overnight thing or something like that, you're not paying a driver to drive because they get paid while they're staying in the hotel overnight. So I think I think all this stuff is exciting. Some of it's a little bit more than others. I imagine if we asked each of the department heads, they would say they're most excited about their items, but
So do we want to focus on I'll call them aqua or teal colored things for the night, or do you want us to, do we want to go line by, what's our procedure?
Yeah,
Here's what I would say is, if the board approves this with the understanding that everything over $25,000 comes back to the board again, then that helps. What that helps is, if Curtis calls up Casper and says, I got 10 possible projects, give me estimates, and then they only does 2 of them.
Right.
It
disincentivizes.
exactly.
Yep.
So we really only want to go with stuff that we think we can get numbers for. So like if we approve this today, we can feel good about going out and getting that concrete number for the visiting bleachers. Now, when that comes back and that's $85,000, it'll still be on a future board agenda.
Yeah.
And so Sean, knowing those rules, has all of his lined up after we approve the concept of capital projects. Then Sean has his specific ones, items I, J, K, and L, because he's got a time sensitive. So I guess my recommendation is we worked with this list, we do this every year, let's approve the concept of the list. And there's not too many things on here that are less than $25,000, so you'll probably see a lot of them individually come back.
Mhm.
The one that pops out at me that's marked as high priority is I haven't spent a lot of time in middle school. I'll just say it straight out. I don't know about what does family bathroom mean? Are we adding one? Are we repairing the existing one?
We're adding a family bathroom. We don't have that set up like we do in other schools,
Sure.
and this
Oh, I
current
mean,
time, it's a needed thing. So if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at a custodian place to turn into a middle school. And then actually, if you look back on our former years, it's been on our list for a few years, and just trying to kind of bumping it up to.
And for the last many years, we've been conservative on this list because we did not want to deplete our couple save fund without having firm bids for our school. And thank goodness we can say now that I know that there are itemized things on this spreadsheet that are not, we don't have estimates for yet, but the project, we have a maximum price guarantee, and that's in the rear view mirror. So we know that.
Right. Just to add on to that.
We don't need to be
Go ahead.
conservative as we have been in the past. Over
I
to you,
guess
Carol.
well, just to add on to that, that is true. However, there are quite a few items in the new school that we did decide to use Pepple and save money for. And I guess I'd like to urge us to be fairly conservative with our other spending until we know what the estimates are for the big items for our new school, like the playground equipment and the furniture, because I think those estimates are probably going to come out low. And I would urge us to get our committees at John Klein together to research those and to make some decisions on those and get those estimates back to us before we really feel like we have lots of money, we can buy all kinds of things. I'd urge us to be conservative one more year while and make sure that what we need for this new school is really our top priority. There might be some things, for instance, maybe we're going to have brand new wrestling mats in the new school. Maybe we don't need brand new wrestling mats in the high school right now. So maybe there are some things that are high priority that we could have our people go back and give us, really high priority for this year. Maybe some things could be put off till next year until we really know what we're going to need to spend on this new school from Pepple and save funds. It might be more than what we think.
It's an unknown. It's an unknown at this point. Tim, have you worked out roles and responsibilities of who is responsible for getting estimates yet? Not to put everything on you and not to put everything on Tori. I just wonder, like, who's best to do that? Who's best to do that work and collect those estimates? And you don't have to answer that right now, but it's just something to think about, because I think just having accountability checks and identify roles and responsibilities can help us gather that information.
Because those estimates came from Patrick, I do believe. And they weren't really based on necessarily they were just based on what other schools have spent, and not necessarily on any particular playground equipment or any particular furniture that we're looking at. So I just want to make sure that they're able to get, that they are the top priority. The elementary kids right now are our top priority.
And just to clarify, Carol, the estimates that you're referring to are not itemized in this document attachment. Those are in other materials related to the school project, but they're
right. They're at the bottom of this list under the items for future years, but those future years are coming up like next year, actually. Like we talked about going ahead and buying that furniture and possibly even storing it so that we can beat inflation on it. So these things are something that's not way off into the future.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm
Ballpark.
I'm not saying don't do the roofs. I mean, we need to do our roofs, but I think there are probably some items on this list that if we really look carefully at it, maybe they could get put off another year and until we really have a clear picture of this, so that we can make sure that we have our priorities where we probably need to have them right now.
Here's some ballpark numbers from, do we want those inserted in here? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I can get those added in probably even tomorrow. That just,
Well,
and you know, to some degree, like, I know the playground equipment number, I'm pretty sure it's $500,000. And we would just put $500,000 in, kind of, that would be a cap, like, that's what we're gonna spend. We'll see what we can get for $500,000. That might be a wonderful opportunity to do a partnership with FEC. If we got through to the point where we're like, oh, we've got everything on our Pepple save list, and it's great, let's put more money into the playground, we could, but that's kind of been our budget number that we've been given. The, you know, chairs and stuff, I think 1.1 million, and as we get closer on that number, I don't want to say it's gonna be any larger than 1.1 million, but I'm optimistic it will come in around there.
And voters have been reaching out to me, furniture and playground.
Great.
And I just sort of directed them, believe it or not, I've directed them to Emergent, and so they are actually setting up interviews, or will be setting up interviews, so we can have a little bit, do a little shopping around to meet the needs of both financially and the physical needs that we have.
great, and we want to continue to lean on people that are still under contract with, or some of that support. And expertise.
So, but to the point that we could certainly put in the estimate numbers so that we have placeholders now,
Well,
as you recall.
and, I want to work in a way that keeps us moving. We can revisit this again and again and again. And I appreciate you flagging things that are time sensitive for today. But it might also be helpful to add a column that maybe adds a month of when that would be spent. And I'm curious, I wonder how long is it going to take us to get solid estimates around those useful items? Like, is it possible that we'll have those by June? Or, and then, but I acknowledging too, I guess we have many individuals in the room that would be putting out, you know, I think that you have a better idea than we do as far as when you need to put out those bids or to request estimates. And is there, I want to give you the opportunity to speak up if there's anything that you want to bring to our attention.
All that on votes this week.
Okay, Chris is ready.
Yeah.
Super ready. Curtis, how about you?
What I have in there are bids. Those are not estimates,
Those are actual
for
bids.
the lawnmowers, the top dresser and the family bathroom, was.
Okay.
Probably the two ones that I have highlighted and prioritized most. First is the acoustical clouds and acoustical shells for the auditorium. It's been deferred. This will be third year of deferring it. Our booster club has raised in excess of has budgeted. Has saved the money of over $100,000. They're chopping at the bit to make this project happen along with our music staff. Given the fact that our shows were past the deferred maintenance point for them. So that budget number is rough. The estimate bid was the actual quote, I should say, was 3 years ago. So I know that'll be a little bit more, but we're trying to have that. It's an excessive cost. The other piece on the track resurfacing. Most track resurfacing 7 to 10 years. I've met with the company we did it last. That things we're at 10 years out. The goal would be getting some sort of a support here, so we get an RFP can be back to you in April. We used to have structural so before this summer before we get too far now. So we defer the maintenance too long on that. It's going to be problematic. We've been waiting on the project more than we needed to wait on a contract on. So,
The kind of thing where if you defer the maintenance too long, then it's gonna cost us a lot more money.
yeah, that, and, yeah, because structurally the track is in really good shape, yeah. I would have to wait another year. We might have some.
I think seeing as anything over $25,000 comes back to us for a future approval anyway, I would move to approve this list of our capital projects. Because I know anything else that is gonna come back to us with hard numbers and then we can look at them.
I'm gonna ask the clarifying question if that was a,
That was my motion.
yeah.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'll just thank both of you guys, all three of you, but for sorry, right behind Laura. He's just doing all the things and you don't even notice he's like he's literally doing it all. I wanted to thank Chris for his notes on our current LP bus and the cost savings we're seeing from that, the maintenance savings. I like seeing that one on here. It's item 50 or row 50. I think that's a really wise way for us to go as a district where we can save money year over year over year if we're investing in LP over diesel. I mean, so I'll say thanks for, is that 2 years ago we started talking about this and now we're there. So, well, we're past being there, but.
Okay, any further comments?
I guess I'd like to add, make one change on it. On the one time at the top where it says new school athletic equipment, scoreboard, score tables and chairs, I think that should get moved down to the other items that are items for future years, because that's where all of our items for the new school are. So there really isn't a reason for that to be on the list for this summer. That should be down. That's item number 20. Should be down with the other new school purchases.
I understand what you're saying, Carol. I think this is the same instance of like, do we want to wait to get the FF&E or do we want to purchase the scoreboard at the price it's at now instead of waiting a year or waiting 5 months? Or if Adam can get a quote on us and we can look at it again. I mean, I don't have an issue leaving it in at this point.
And the goal on that item was not to be up that high, but on the flip side, for inflation purposes, to we can lock something in. We would do so, but we don't have to set this towards.
So we do
Yes.
have a motion in the second to approve the list as presented. So I'd like to move forward with that vote. Are there, without making changes, but thank you for voicing that, Carol. Any other points of discussion?
I would just add that anything still has to come back if it's over $25,000 for board review. So we've got a few of those, as mentioned, that will actually hit this meeting. And the only other one I could think of is sometimes we get a hot lead on a used 12-passenger van. And like we were really antsy, and so most other vendors work really well with us, but I know I've been in other districts where it's been like, you got 2 days to decide because I'm gonna sell this to somebody, so.
And I'm gonna correct your language. We're not antsy, we're opportunistic. Okay. Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, that was good discussion. Thank you. Next, we're on item H to set public hearing for the roof project.
So this is what it is. We have to have a public hearing. It just says, I think we're gonna improve the roofs. So we're scheduling this for the next board meeting. We have to put this notice in the paper. And then if somebody has you know, something they wanna say about the roofs, they can come to the meeting and say it, and, we did some baseball lights once and actually had the neighbor show up at a board meeting, but that's the only time I could think of anybody attending a public improvement. I hope that people would understand how important roofs are.
Very important to follow the process.
I think the estimates that they was in there, I haven't double checked. It's consistent with what we had earlier. Yeah, it's actually about $100,000 lower, so hopefully those estimates will come in, but this will start the project, you know, the process, I think I put that in the notes, it's have a public hearing, go out for the RFP, and so it'll be a few months.
Well, I appreciate our attention to our school roofs. There was
Yes.
years.
Absolutely.
I'll move that we set the public hearing for the roof project for April 13th, 2026 at 5:30 PM.
A second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item I, approval of budget for 2026 interactive smart boards.
Okay, so we just mentioned that anything on the capital projects list that's over $25,000 does need also approval from the board. So Sean has put together 55 smart boards across 4 schools. He got 2 bids, and he's recommending that we go with the Bradford's bid of $238,015.
Sean, may I ask questions about the smart board? How long, when we make an investment, or if we make the investment of buying 50 new smart boards, how long are those typically good for and used in a classroom?
So Smartboard, they will only honor warranty up to 7 years. The ones we bought last year, were 7-year warranty, and that's why, I didn't bid that as an optional to get us to the 7 years. 7 years on a TV smartboard that's used every day, is turned on every day, I think is pretty aggressive, but they honor it, but replace it. I think we've used to replace it a couple times where we did also like that. So my hope is that they will get us into the 7 or 8 years of technology. You know, our existing technology has lasted over 5.
A year ago, we were really specific about where they were going, where these. Thank you. Brad's already got the answer for me right there.
I didn't get super specific with names, but
No.
but yeah, by location, this will take care of all the rest of the specials in the elementary level. So carrying the John Klein and all of the high school classrooms, and then good chunk of middle school classrooms. And this is requested by the teachers. It's reaching out to the principals and then to reach out. We want to have to read back.
That was my next question, like, are we investing in equipment in every classroom just to have it there despite who the staff are there at the time, or we are asking teachers in confirming they will use it?
That way, because the initial smart board we bought years ago, like 12 years ago, the story that I got was that we did that. We bought a trailer load of some smart boards and threw them at them and said, here you go, use them. And some people didn't use them.
Right.
So it was kind of a big waste of money. So that the hope with this kind of pilot stair step approach is to get people comfortable with the change, because it is a change. There's people who are like, when can I get my smart board? Zach Fromm was like, can I get my new smart board today? I signed up yesterday. What?
So if we did 40 last year and 55 this year, how many more will be on the docket for next year?
There's only a few up at middle school, and it's only the teachers of new school. Next year we'll be moving, obviously, both the those two, all of the ones we've done to the new school.
Oh, Carol, you're muted. You're muted, Carol.
Thank you.
You'll have to say it all again.
Do these take the place of both the smart boards and the Apple TVs in classrooms? And if so, then do we sell those? Do we sell those back to Apple? What do we do with those other items?
We will attempt to sell back the Apple TVs to Apple or to a third-party vendor. They're not worth a whole lot because they're, 8+ years old. They're really old. So we will attempt to. The TVs, we've been using the TVs from last year to replace TVs that have died this year. So we'll have the 55 this year plus a few that we had from last year saved that we'll probably put on like our Gov Deal site. I've had a lot of interest in people who were asking about them, so
Yeah.
we'll probably do that.
Oh, that's
Something
nice.
out of them.
Yeah, well, not only to get something out of them, but just to pass it on to be used rather than going to a landfill or recycle, I don't, to
Right.
get more maximum use out of each one.
Mhm. Those interactive smart boards, I mean, they really are amazing. I know that the teachers at John Klein just love those. But they do take some work to learn them. So there is professional development, I imagine, that goes with this. Maybe you already said that and I couldn't hear you, but
He was describing how principals were in touch with their building staff to ask who was ready for one and would use one. And there's been a stair-step approach over a number of years, just to slowly introduce this technology rather than doing a one-size-fits-all and order it for the whole district at once. It's been a stair-step approach to slowly integrate that technology.
okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the smart board purchase.
Second. Okay, you're in a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion?
Do we need to
Hearing
say
none, all-
specifically which bid we're taking as we approve this, that is from the Bradfields? Since they're.
I will
three
amend that
bids.
motion, to say the Bradfield bid.
I think your options are you can specify which bid, or you could say approve as presented, because Sean did write that in the presentation. Either one is fine.
Thank you.
And I can't, off the top of my head, I can't tell you how Brad presented the.
I just approve the buy the smart board. Yeah, as presented.
Second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are on item J, approval of 2026 staff device replacement.
And so every 4 years, we kind of got a cycle going for staff machines. You'll see there's a financing option that is available through April 15th that would be zero interest, which would allow us to lease and have a zero interest payment. So that's a nice way to spread it out. And Sean has a recommendation to go with the Apple computers at the $374,424. We don't have a bid for like Lenovo's or a different type of device. Our recommendation is on that.
They're sole source, yep.
And this reflects some new Apple pricing that came out about a week ago.
Yes, yeah, Apple just released a new device a week ago. He called me and was like, hey, you're gonna like this because prices got lower, plus it's a new device.
Right.
So if we switch that, that's gonna be nice.
And potential future question, what do we do with the old devices? We bundle them up and we send them to a third party who gives us a price for them. We do not sell them individually, which some districts do, and I can just tell you that will make more work for us. When I was at Central, I told Sean the other day, when I was at Central City, somebody brought in the old white clam Apple, and I was like, He's a guy I didn't know, he was a community member, I go, wow, that's an old laptop, but he's like, yep, I need it serviced, and I was like, oh, well, why'd you bring it to the school? Well, I bought it from you guys, so, we apparently sold a lifetime service, and, you know, it was the town folks, and, yeah, the IT department did provide service, because they couldn't say no, and they wanted to be good, community people, but at the end of the day, he was bringing in like a 10-year-old computer, and
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
we don't want to do that, so it is just a clean, efficient way to get rid of devices.
And the length of, I understand that there's 0% interest. That's great. I'm glad that Apple launched a new affordable product. That's great. I heard about that in my household. Actually. And I'm wondering, like, this in my wise elder 40s phase of life, 4 years goes like that. And I just wonder, like, is that amount of time still the right amount of time to replace a device? Or could we go longer? Or it's just,
We talked about that, the devices that you guys have now, and all of us have, are 5-year-old. We stretch them out every year. And that's, potentially could do with the student ones, because they so far have been really well, and we talked about doing that for residents, so we spread out the state. So, you could do 5. The nice part about the lease is there's a 0 cost. Once we reach the end of that lease, we won't owe them anything else. It's paid for, it's ours.
right.
Yeah, it's
And-
lease to own kind
Yeah.
of,
So you could use them 2 more years.
And I'm
Yeah.
assuming if we would lose value on the sellback computers if we kept them longer.
A little bit.
So it might financially be a wash
Potentially, yeah.
by stretching either.
And we got the risk of them having no warranty.
Right. Right.
and we could purchase a secondhand warranty,
Oh,
not from Apple, we could buy it from, Gesture Insurance, so there is possibility of stretching out just in another way to help us save, because next year, this is staff, and next year will be students.
Next year, we students, so.
Okay. So if we did stretch the students out, we would just save that money for, you know, we'd put off the new, so, but let's worry about this year's.
To add 2 things, just, because their teacher requests, and I think they're very important, was the size of the hard drives in them. When we increased those for the teachers, that was a big request. The other big request was iPads. The last time we did teacher devices, we did not replace iPads with devices. This time, we looked at replacing the iPads. That also will help with the interactive boards, so that the teachers can walk around the room with their iPad, hold the board. With the TIP committee, they actually have to demo that, and using it as a backup camera. Because backup cameras are super expensive, they're like $800 a piece, where you can buy an iPad for.
Yeah.
is that some of the like mounting?
We have to buy a mount separate, but it's still a lot cheaper than any backup.
So we don't just get a stack of books from one.
We could, we tried that. We tried different models. We've been that long life.
Trying to tie it in with the media presentation, that really.
A lot of books checked out.
Well, I'll say thank you to you and also to the Technology Integration Committee for their work on this. It seems very well thought through.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase as presented.
Second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item K, approval of the 2026 E-rate, category 1 internet service provider.
We'll turn this back over to Sean. It's 2 agenda items. It's the primary and the backup. I probably could have been summarized into one. As a reminder, E-rate, and this is time sensitive, but E-rate expenses do get reimbursed 60% of the cost. and Sean kind of budgets that out. We are part of Metronet now, but that's going away, so we do need to line up our own internet provider. And I'm at the end of my knowledge on our internet, so now I'm gonna defer to Sean.
Yeah, so we're sharing with the Metronet partners right now, that sharing of our internet pipes are going away. So we're kind of breaking that part away. The reason it's going away is because the city's obviously creating its own fiber plant, which is pretty awesome, through a Centec. So we want to work with them a little. So, part of the E-rate process, E-rate category 1 funds are, there's not really a per se cap on them, whereas category 2 funds are in, and we'll probably go over that later, we'll talk about some of the things, but, category 1 funds are for internet connections, internal management, things that we usually don't apply for. So we get 60% of that, and it's based on a free or reduced percentage, so that's how that 60% comes about. We are required to go out to bid for 28 days minimum. After 28 days, then we have to tabulate and create all these documents for the federal funding. We're obligated by federal rules to take the lowest bidder for our E-rate. E-rate does not cover a secondary internet connection at this time, so that's why it's built into 2, this is at 1. So we take the lowest bidder for our E-rate and then our second lowest bidder. Second. The secondary internet connection used to highlight why it says Centec with Decorah fiber on there. And Decorah fiber doesn't have their municipality agreements and all that stuff set up yet, so Centec actually did it for them. That price, I've been told, is probably gonna go down, but we're not sure, so they gave us what they would bid it at. Before fiber has set it at a different rate, but it's not published yet.
It took me a minute to find it. I was like, wow, that's so cheap on the MediaCom bid. And then I realized they're
Yeah.
not bidding the same thing that everyone else eat. And it's like, yeah, it's cheaper, but there's a reason it's cheaper. And that's not necessarily a good thing in this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. And I do want to take advantage of investing in a plan that will be able to use the new infrastructure. I'm really grateful that we're finally getting fast fiber to the Decorah area. And this will be a valuable service for our schools. Excuse me.
Do you think there's a point, this is probably beyond the scope of this, but do you think there's a point, Sean, where we're moving away from ICN and to Decorah fiber?
For a primary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what we'll end up doing is using both of our internet connections, so currently, we have 2 10-gig connections, so really, we actually have the ability to stream up to 20 gigs of data right now with our 5 gig version. Of course, too. We as a school, going back and looking at our history, I was like, we're right around 2 gigs on our highs, and so that's kind of why I did a 2 gig or a 5 gig option. So if we put 2 gig options in, that allows us to have 2 connections. If they're both running at the same time, so we have 4. One goes down, we can still have 2, and people don't even notice that we go.
Glad we're not only dependent on one.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
But even if after the 3-year contract, in order to utilize Decorah fiber, they would still have to come back in as the low bid for the primary.
Thank Sean for his work and move that we approve the 2026 E-rate category 1 ISP recommendations as presented.
I'll second.
Oh, can I get clarification? Is that items K and L combined then?
I
'Cause
only,
unfortunately,
yeah, I only set it for K, but I would be happy to amend and
Do we have to do them separate for E-rate or that no matter?
I don't know. I don't know why the person put the agenda together, but
I'm happy,
questioning his choices.
I'm happy to amend my motion to approve the recommendations for ISP service as presented in items K and L.
Second again.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. For both items K and L. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving down to item M, approval of single items from capital projects, which includes the lawnmowers and top dresser.
And so this is maybe how I meant to do the one before, but just kind of, all of these items are on the capital projects, but now we're just approving them. The lawnmowers, as we talked about, Curtis has in there, the 104-inch is over the 25,000, the smaller one was less than that. The 60-inch Curtis, the use of that will be just general mowing.
So yes, the 104, obviously doesn't get into tight spaces if we have fair amount of get around buildings and parking lots, and just around even around the side of the along the pond there, it's a lawn more bit. So we do still need that ability. So yeah, it's for small areas.
So there's two lawnmowers, and then I also combined the top dresser. We would love to have you describe what a top dresser is, because I know it works with the turf, but tell us about the top dresser.
So our fields, football, soccer, baseball, all of them, we do what's called top dressing with sand and dirt, which helps replenish the field, helps level it. The great thing about this top dresser is that it's 4-wheel drive and steer, so we can get into really tight spots. Now the fields are tight, but around the buildings and stuff like that, so even just repair of whatever dirt or glass areas that we need to, that you can broadcast at a 1/4 inch to whatever you want to set, or you can just come to a spot and just dump, right when you need it. It also has a top seeder so that we can incorporate the seed with the dirt. The other really good part about it is that it comes with the power broom for the turf. So we can maintain the middle school and then the new stuff that we're putting together.
Did
Maybe-
he, could he explain, could you all tell me what he said about the power broom? Does that take care of the artificial turf? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the uses, yes.
Okay.
my question, Curtis, would be, do we have a top dresser right now?
Yes, what we have now is it's very large. We pull it with another tractor. Last year we had some difficulties with it, just you can't see what's going on behind you. So if we would have a chunk of dirt, get in there and plug it, we don't know it until you're coming back around again. Where this one is you stand on it behind it, so you're watching it come out. So much more control. A smaller footprint, lighter. We don't leave a bunch of tracks. Not that the one we had did, but it's just a lot lighter. Our intention would be to get rid of that. I suppose gov deals is our only option.
Yeah, we have to follow the process.
Yeah, so that would be that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Same with another zero turn, getting rid of another zero turn lawnmower.
And this is the lawnmower you spoke of that is a huge increase in efficiency.
The 104 inch. The top dresser is
Right,
just
different.
but yeah.
Brad, did you have any other questions?
I just was gonna make a motion to approve the purchases of both lawnmowers and the top dresser for item M.
Okay, Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item N, approval of regular program budget adjustment.
So the budget guarantee or budget adjustment, this just says, okay, your enrollment's going down, potential increase from the state isn't gonna be enough. You're gonna have to tax locally to make up that difference. I think we looked at, and maybe it's about $65,000, so it's pretty minimal on our local tax rate.
Total amount.
Total amount.
Yes.
Not per household.
Not around.
Yes.
Per thousand.
No. Total of 65,000. Now, it's probably a moot point because the state legislature also has part of the spending bill that the state's gonna pay everybody's budget guarantee this year. But until that's finalized, we don't know. We already had it on our agenda. It's a procedural thing. We want to have it in place because we do want to, if the state wouldn't approve it, we want to make sure that when we set our tax rate, that we have the ability to do that. So this is considered a hoop you jump through when your enrollment is going down. And this is where the budget guarantee, I think what you're seeing on the news reports is maybe 75% of the school districts in Iowa are on the budget guarantee, which just indicates that the increase is not, like, that's not matching the same amount of money. It doesn't have to do anything with inflation. Enrollment is going down and what the allocation from the state isn't gonna match last year's funding. But that's a whole different topic and editorial. So for today, we're just approving a budget guarantee.
I'll move that we approve the regular program budget guarantee.
Okay, hearing a motion in the second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is item O, approval of 26-27 fees.
You kind of see, we've got a history here. Some of these are still to be TBD. Some of them could still be adjusted. For example, we usually get together with a consortium and decide on the substitute salaries. And also the substitute, not just teacher, but then the other substitute pay is usually kind of driven off of where we end our settlement at, so that could be adjusted. But in general, we wanted to kind of have what lunch prices would be, because we want to start getting information ready to go out to families. So these are current recommendations. As we review, there might be some tweaks. I think we brought it back a couple times last year as well.
Yeah, thank you for having that historical data. It's nice to see those trends over time. I'm curious about item G, that's still TBD with activity punch passes. And I'm just wondering, and student activity passes, what are the variables with setting that fee? Or is it just hasn't been thought about yet?
Has not been thought about yet at this point in time, so
I respect that.
that's true.
I really appreciate that. Oh. I really appreciate that, except for the milk, that none of the prices have gone up. And I think for our Decorah families, that's really an important item for them. And I'd also like us, as a district, as for our administrators to work with our teachers as they look at the supply lists for students to bring in for next year. That parents buy for their students to bring to school, to try to be as frugal as possible with those lists, because I think that we do have quite a few families that are struggling. And I think that paying for daycare for an extra few days is going to, add to that. So I think for us to be as just cognizant of that as possible, I think is being thoughtful of them. So I appreciate this, the schedule.
Carol, I thank you for that comment. I guess my question is to the admin is, are these fees continuing to support what we need them to support within our budget? Like I look at the fifth through twelfth grade instrument that has never increased, well, not since 2022-23. And maybe we're got a vendor who's letting us rent for that same cost, or are we covering it with other areas?
Well, there's an answer to that one. We kind of have these fees in place. A lot of times they're renting instruments from us, so it's kind of, you'd have to compare to our maintenance fee, which we do have a budget for, and a replacement. That's probably.
Comparatively speaking, like what you approved earlier with the summer projects, that will say we usually budget about $10,000 per year as it relates to for orchestra for actual, and then the same thing for band instrumental. And directors that laid out a 3-4 year plan that they shared as they went on. It hasn't been an issue to this point.
There's some combination of, there's a sweet spot in there, like, yeah, we like the program to pay for themselves, but we don't expect it to. But by charging a fee, then you just get a little bit more buy care. Not that the children here wouldn't care for their instruments wonderfully, but it was just a little bit more skin.
Like the 25 sixth grade students that were participated in jazz band this year. I mean, I was so inspired to see that last week. I think for increased band in the years to come.
I'll just echo the comment Carol made at the beginning, which is I'm thankful or appreciative of the fact that we've been able to keep our rates basically, with one exception, identical to what last year was. I'll move that we approve the 26-27 fees as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion?
I guess I do
Hearing
want
none,
to
all
ask
in-
if I
Go ahead.
need to, do I need to abstain from this because substitute teaching pay is on here since I do sub for the district?
Yes,
Okay.
good catch, Carol, thank you. Okay, moving to a vote, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And abstain.
Aye.
Yeah.
I don't know, abstain.
We don't do that a lot. Okay. Next is item P, approval of Iowa local government grant, government risk pool participation agreement.
So just a reminder, this is how we purchase our natural gas. It's broken down on the last page, what we get charged per building. I was just curious because I thought 175, I thought when we started this, it was about 100,000. We might have been prorated. Last year, it was 145,000, and I think when we get all said and done, well, that'll be a pretty good deal because of Winter Storm Fern. I did not even realize when I was being very cold in January that they had a name to that, but there was a price spike, and of course, there's also some tariff involved in there, but that's the whole point. The risk pool does two things. It shifts the general fund expense to management fund, but it also ensures that you are buffered against any kind of price increase. So it does, and I kind of had written that up a little bit in some weekly notes, but this year our premium will be $175,000, which does get paid out of management fund.
Mhm.
Well, I am sure that there's gonna be some volatility in the energy market in the
Guessing,
future,
guessing
so.
that's why.
Yeah, yes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve our participation in the risk pool.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're to item Q, approval of school links career information system subscription.
There's a detailed write-up here. This is, I'm gonna let Brad explain it because I don't want to explain it for
Yeah,
you.
there's a lot to this. I have to give a lot of credit to our counselors, Pat Truman and Rick Starkov, who have done extensive research try to capture a lot of the why here. I'm not gonna go through all the details, but I think an acronym to know is EIS, which is Career Information System. The state Department of Education requires that every student or every school district uses one of these. And a list of the ones that you can choose from is below in the document that's linked to the quote. So you can only choose one of these per state law. And so for the last several years, we've been using my academic plan through Iowa State University, primarily because it's the only free version that's been available. Now, the problem with that is the state continues to increase the requirements for career learning. I don't know if it's a problem, right, or the challenge with what my academic plan has and what the state requires not matching up very well. So the other thing that kind of is coming to head is the district career academic plan, which you may remember in May, we have a presentation, we talked about all our career-based, work-based learning. The board approves a plan of what our DCAP is for the next year. Now actually has to include students down to 5th grade, so middle school, just to help them through the are and have right up. Justin is super excited about that, you can see.
I'll probably see the presentation.
So basically what then happens, and the other thing I should probably point out is that my academic plan is no longer being supported or updated by Iowa State University. So it no longer will even be able to meet the basic features that we have as of 2027. And many of these other programs have more of the features that the state is coming to expect. If you've been following the Department of Ed at all, they've been continuing to push career-based, work-based learning experiences for students. And this really allows students to have modules and programs and dive into career interests. And I think the big thing here is it allows us to meet the state requirements without inordinate amounts of more work for our teachers and or our counselors to develop curriculum and ways to do that. If you look further down in the document, you'll see in our RPP, which is our regional planning partnership, which basically consists of Maine Northeast Iowa districts, the different ones that are being used. So you'll see that we were one of 2 that we're still using my academic plan. And so we did have a lot that went into this. Mr. Truan, Mr. Albers, Mr. Stock, Bev Burns of the AA, as well as Maddie Putnam Tech. We all met a few weeks ago and really kind of talked through our career academic plan. Separate from that, then Mr. Truan and Mrs. Storoff have actually done tons of research on different ones that we could choose and priorities that we kind of developed from that as things that can integrate well with the systems we already have in place, which includes Canvas, ClassLink, and PowerSchool. That really narrowed the list pretty extensively down to either school links or Naviance. They did go ahead and tour, you talked to Howard Wynn about does use Naviance. They spent a good part of a half day there. But we didn't want to just go with that based on that. So then we also researched the specific differences between the two. School Links is relatively new to Iowa, but there's lots of districts that have been using Naviance. They're switching over to School Links. And those were listed here: Dallas Center, Grimes, ADM, Ankeny, Des Moines Public Schools. And they basically said the primary reason that they've done so is because it has better features. It's more intuitive. The kids actually find it more interesting, and they find that the kids are using it more outside of just, required activities they're having to do in class, and truly like going on to this and actually researching their careers on their own, which is, I think, what you want versus just something that you're doing for compliance. And so we put together here a plan and a quote. Within this quote, there was lots of options that we could have had, but we, kind of like we talked about earlier today, we want to kind of phase in what seems appropriate. There are lots of bells and whistles that we opted not to request purchase, because we want to make sure that we're meeting the compliance and not buying things that we may not so use. So what you'll see here is there is a required cost for like implementing it, which is training, an on-site training day, which we have to kind of figure out when we do that. Whether that would be pre-service days or one of the first few days, we would break it up. There's lots of options of how we could do it. It could be 2 types of separate 3-hour sessions. Could be another, and then we would also want to train our counselors, some of our teachers through the virtual training days ahead of time, so they would kind of know a little bit more about it. And then the reason that this kind of goes over the 25,000 is it is a subscription for multiple years. So you'll see them below the cost per year after the first year is about $11,000. That's for a 512 usage and licensure. And again, I'll kind of remind you, you have to do something to meet the state law. My academic plan is no longer going to meet the needs of what the state requires. So we probably need to go to a route of purchase service. This one has been really well thought out. It does integrate with all of our systems, and it is recommended by our counselors. So I would also support recommendation by the board.
I certainly want to give you and your staff the tools that you need to do your job. I'm happy to see that there's integration with the platforms that we're already investing. And thanks to your staff that have gathered data just to know who's using what. It's really helpful for me to see other Iowa schools and to see those trends. It helps us make a decision.
Thank you for all the work that went into this. I'll move that we approve the School Links Career Information System subscription as presented.
Hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion?
I'm just gonna add
Hearing
one.
none,
Can I just
Yes,
add a
go ahead,
comment?
Carol.
That's not a change. I want to also thank, especially Bridget and Pat for all of their work with vetting these out and finding something that's going to work for us. I think that career education is really, really important, and I've seen the value of it in teaching students at the middle school. And I think that it's a wonderful thing that the state is requiring it. However, I do wish that the state would also fund their mandates. Rather than give us the list here for us to purchase ourselves, if they're going to give us these mandates, there should be funding for it to back the mandates from the state.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're to R. We got deep into the alphabet
Yeah,
tonight,
for
and I
sure.
know that it's been a long night, so thank you to everybody. We'll get through this as quickly as we can. Okay, so we need to set a building hearing for a donation of the tennis building to the city of Decorah. And then also today was added potential donation of the dugouts as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just say, so right now, this stuff is scheduled to be bulldozed. And of course, so this, anything we can keep out of the landfill, I think is a good thing. The city specifically asked for the tennis outbuilding, which made excellent sense because they helped, when we jointly own the land, they helped to build it. But I don't have the authority just to give it away. And so there's procedures, and of course, I asked the question, what's the procedure we have to follow? We have to approve a public hearing today. We could have that public hearing on March 23rd, the day we do the budget. We'll have the budget hearing. We could follow up with this public hearing. And basically, we're saying, does anybody care if we donate this equipment, this building equipment to the city? Kind of like we had today with the calendar. People could make comments, and the board, regardless of what the comments are, could still vote to donate. I'm not suggesting that there's any reason that we wouldn't donate, and I hope people would realize putting it to good use, but the proper way to dispose of publicly owned property is to follow these steps. As ours in Cooney reinforced for them. We did get, it started out as a tennis building, and we did get a late ask for ball field 2, which includes dugout structures, benches, and bleachers. And so I just added those into the public hearing to save time and so that we could all be consistent. I know that's a late ad, but I'm just trying to be efficient with our time and not have to have a special board meeting just to ask for that. And again, to keep things out of the landfill and to be a good partner with the city and give things a second life. And, of course, if people can take it down for us, then that just makes the construction process go faster. We do have, confirmation that the city, will be in charge of taking all this stuff and removing it. So that's box is checked as well.
I think this makes total sense. The only thing, make sure that the city's willing to work on Myron's timeline, so we're not delaying things weeks because things aren't out of the way.
And I think the motivation there is, if they don't, then it just gets bulldozed. But there's already, Skyline's already aware and they're the ones doing that demo. They've already got plans to move the building, provided the board approves this today.
What about the light?
Well,
Does that, sorry, does the lighting,
Yeah,
should
the
the
light-
lighting be included? Any of the
No,
lights?
we'd love it if they would take. They haven't asked for the lights. We'd love it if they would take the lights. We actually put the light, we had a community member who was interested in the lights. But the problem with the lights is you have to take them down.
Right.
So, as Myron said, yeah, we can rent a lift. It's a change order. We can get a lift and take them down and then you're gonna put them up for sale and maybe get $200 and, whatever the lift costs, we'll lose that money. I did share my concern, I did say, well, Blake, this community, we're not gonna wanna see those come down. We wanna keep stuff out of the landfill. We want stuff recycled. And Blake, assured me that they would do all they could in their power to make sure at least, the old materials do get recycled to the best of his ability. So I understand that that's in a construction process, not something that always happens. So, encouraged by that. But yeah, if you know anybody who wants the baseball lights and has the ability to take them down, I think there's a couple days left to bid on them.
Nice.
So that'd be tremendous. But do we have any bids yet?
No bids.
No bids. Unsurprisingly, no bids on the baseball light. So maybe that can be the headline, maybe that can be the headline of the paper on Thursday.
There you go.
So our only action on this item is setting the public hearing.
Yeah, so we'll set the public hearing there. Understand that Myron has a schedule, Skyline's aware of the schedule. We have a potentially, because we can't have the public hearing until it's in the paper, but we could move the outbuilding off our property until we have the public hearing. And there just happens to be a place that the city would allow us to store the outbuilding until we have our public hearing.
Okay.
So,
That's,
So we're-
sure that's legal and.
yeah,
We'll make a motion that we set the public hearing for March 23rd, 2026 at, we at 12:05
we said 12:05 or following the.
Okay. or following the
budget
budget
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah.
For the dugouts, bleachers and
And this up.
tennis outbuilding.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion?
My only question is at this. Are they jointly together or are they separate things when we get to that point?
So
I guess somebody taking the tennis outbuilding and then maybe somebody else says we want,
We're donating it all to the city.
Okay,
So
so-
they're gonna come and,
yeah, we're putting it all in one.
yeah, we're
That's
not
the
putting
thing
this
I wanted
up
to
for
make.
sale. We're saying we're not putting this up for sale. We're donating to the city. And so, we just have to,
Clear the public hearing so that it's $5. Got it. Okay.
Okay, we'll move to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
yeah, just, again, as Cindy mentioned, excited that the PEPAL passed. That was fantastic. I don't have statewide results. I am aware that other PEPAL ballots did not pass, so happy that ours passed. We included a calendar of this year's days with the last snow day. Now we've kind of spun around Memorial Day, and right now are scheduled to come back on that Tuesday after Memorial Day. But as a reminder, we as a board can review that and have the last few years in the April board meeting, which is oftentimes after the last snow day, except in 2023 when we had one on April 17th. But yeah, it's just good to look at that afterwards, and there's always a possibility of some calendar adjustments, especially I think, as we talked last year, coming back for one day or possibly even 2 days after Memorial Day is always the most effective. And we have enough in our calendar with hours that we can kind of squeeze that in. And then, yeah, I guess there's my write-up on the local risk pool, which I talked about, and Winter Storm Fern. And those are kind of the highlights this month.
And elementary project updates.
Always, as always, you can click on the elementary project updates. I know we worked a lot. I don't know if we've added anything for a week or two.
No, but most recently, since our last meeting, I think, there's a nice map where you can click around and see what different rooms look like. And that's really helpful, so you don't have to watch a half-hour video. Just click and see an image.
That's great.
So check that out.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's, if you go to that website, right under kind of the middle of the page where it says Decorah Elementary Updates, project plans page, will take you to some good graphics.
And we have tried to improve navigation so that will appear in the menu if you're on the website on your phone. You can support what's not this phone. So that is updated. So thanks to all that made that happen. Moving on to our financial report, and Christy and Joan, thank you so much for being through this big long meeting. Do you have any overview comments for the financial report this month? Anything to share?
I don't know if Christy does, but I just was going to mention the first one in our, let's see, is the cash balances. Again, you can see that our PEPAL is increasing, and our save, we have decreased from last year. We continue to do that. Also in debt service, we pre-levied for our debts that we sold this year. So you can see that, we hadn't done that in the previous year. So your debt service is accumulating a balance, so that we'll have the money in place for our first payment in June of 26 this year. And then if you go to our revenue expenditures, I did want to point out in the revenues in February, we did get the last part of our income surtax. So you can see in the general fund that there is an increase in revenues for that year or that month versus the other of the year. And I don't think I really have a lot of anything, remarkable this month. And I don't know if Christy has anything to add.
Christy, no.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Christy, thank you for being available for questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's okay if the budget report doesn't have anything remarkable in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. We're gonna keep working toward that. No surprises. Any other questions about the financial report from the board? Comments? Okay, seeing none, we did it. We reached the end of our agenda, so I'll call the meeting